Hey guys, welcome back. We are working on 1.4 notes, which is solving and graphing the inequalities. So what I'm going to have you do is pause, write down what you see, and when you're ready, go ahead and hit play. We'll get started. All right, so the first couple things that we're going to talk about is what the solutions mean when we change from just an equal sign to an inequality. Okay, so if I give you an answer like x equals 4, that means x is 4. It's only 4. It's the only amount that it could be. So today when we start graphing things like that, we want to be able to note that a solid complete dot on 4 indicates that that value is the only option that I can have. Okay, I'll go ahead and change it to a regular dot. There you go. Okay, but we all know with inequalities, we're going to have those less thans, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, those symbols. So let's talk about what those actually mean. If I look at x is greater than 4, that's this guy right here. I'm saying that x can be bigger than 4, could be 4.5, 5, 100, but it can't actually be 4. So here's how we would note that. We would say I can be everything that's not 4, but it can be greater than. Okay, so we use an open circle. We're going to circle around the 4, and we're going to go greater. We're moving to the right. The last and final one is x is greater than or equal to 4. That's this guy. Only difference is now I'm saying it could be 4 or it could be anything bigger. So we're going to go back to putting that as a closed circle. And then we're still saying that it could be greater than. So we're going to be coloring it in to the right. So how did I know what kind of circle to put? Well, that's where we're going to come over to this screen over here. Okay. So less thans and greater thans, we want to know the difference between the symbol. Here's how I say it. If I make the word less, this symbol right here should match this guy. Okay, if I make an L, that's the same direction that a less than should be facing. Okay, all right, so the difference between which way the circle goes has to do with whether it's open or closed. So if you see a less than or a greater than, they're both going to have open circles. There's no line underneath. They're going to be a circle not colored in. If they are colored in, that's what we're going to use when it says or equal to. So if the word is less than or equal to, that's this closed circle. If I'm greater than or equal to, that's going to use the closed circle. Okay, and closed just means it's colored in. All right, any questions so far? You might want to jot those down as a note. Make sure you ask me in class or ask me in a tutorial. Okay, we're going to move on to solving. So basically solving is going to look the exact same way. We're going to say, can I simplify either side? I'm going to solve and cancel things out just like we did before. But step three is really going to be the only difference maker on this inequality. Because if I divide as my last step or anywhere, or multiply at any point in the equation by a negative, that means I'm going to have to take my inequality sign and flip it over. Okay, so you are not dividing with a negative, you're dividing by a negative. Let me make a quick little explanation of that. So if I do 2x equals negative 4, and I go to solve this, what am I dividing by? I'm dividing by 2. I would not flip on this problem because I'm dividing by a positive number, okay? But if I change this equation just a little bit, let's say I do 20 and a negative 5, and I go to solve this, negative 5, negative 5. What am I dividing by? Dividing by a negative 5. So if this was a greater than sign, and I go to make my answer, I'm going to flip it over to a greater than. I'm just switching the sign and making it face the other direction. That's all that flipping means. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and jump into one of these questions. Let's start with problem 1. All right, so on problem 1, first question, can I simplify? No. What do I need to do to solve? I need to cancel out that negative 4. Remember that negative 4 is multiplying, so we want to cancel it out using division. Putting a division sign on both, what am I dividing by? Dividing by a negative 4. And when I divide by a negative, what happens to my sign? It flips. So I do want you to make a quick little note here just remind yourself that on this one flipped, we divided by a -3. Or sorry, we divided by a -4. That's my bad. Okay? All right, so here's how we write our answers. Whatever your answer is, we're going to put that number in the middle of our number line. We're going to put a number on either side. Okay, so -3, that means it's smaller than 0, right? So -2 is closer, -4 is farther away. What kind of circle would I use for this one? Open or closed? It's going to be open, and that's because it's a greater than. And if I'm going to be greater, which way am I going to shade? To the right. So all these numbers, make yourself a note, we are going greater. Greater than the -3. Okay? All right, let's go to number 2. Number 2, can I simplify? No, I need to solve it. Okay, so if I'm looking at this problem, how would I solve for x? I need to get rid of the 3. He is multiplying, so that means I'm going to divide on both sides. Do I need to flip? No, we are not flipping. Put no flip. Okay, my answer comes out. Keep the same sign. X is less than a -5. -5 is going to be our answer, so that goes in the middle, -5. The next biggest number is a -4. Next smallest number is a -6. Remember, they're going backwards because they're negatives. Okay, if you ever forget that, think about putting a 0 on one side, 1, 2, -1, -2. Okay, they're backwards when they're negative. All right, so what kind of circle are we going to have? This one's going to be open again because it's a less than. And because it's less, which way do we want to shade? Good, we want to shade towards the smaller numbers because we are less. We want to be less than. Okay? All right, we are moving on to number 3. Problem number 3, can we simplify anything? Nope. We are ready to solve then. We need to get rid of that -2. How would I get rid of a -2 if it's adding with the x? Well, I need to add or subtract it, cancel it off. How do I cancel out a negative? I would need to add it. So if I do add 1 to one side, add 2 on one side, I have to add 2 on the other side. The 2's are going to cancel. We are left with x less than or equal to a -7. We are not flipping on this problem. We didn't multiply or divide at all, actually. No negatives, no multiply, divide. We are not flipping, okay? So I'm making my number line. We got a -7, -6, -8. What kind of circle would we use? Good. We're going to use a closed circle on this time, so I'm going to color it in. Closed circle, and that's because it's an or equal to. And I'm going less than, so that means I'm going to the left. Again, if you ever need to pause or take more time, go ahead and do that. You can always come back. Moving on to number 4. Number 4, can we simplify anything in this equation? No, there's no distributing, no combining. We're going straight to solve. If I want to solve for x, I got to get rid of the -3. That -3 is dividing. So if I want to cancel division, I'm going to multiply. Multiply on both sides by a -3. -3's are going to cancel. I have an x and a -36. But since I multiply by a -3, what do I have to do? I have to flip. Okay, so that means I'm changing my sign. X is greater than a -36. So -36 is my middle number. He's my answer. -35 and -37 are my numbers on either side. What kind of circle would we use? We would want it to be open because it's a plain greater than, not equal to. And because it's greater than, we are going to the higher numbers. We are going greater. All right, if you need a second to pause and write down 1 through 4, go ahead and do that. I will meet you on the next page. All right, I'm going to keep it zoomed out now. All right, so if we're looking at problem 5, this looks very similar to the one we just did. I need to solve, get rid of the 5, that we multiply. All right, so if the 5's cancel and I'm multiplying by 5, do I flip the sign? No, because I multiplied by a positive number. So we're keeping with this, -20, negative 19, negative 21. We're going to make this one a closed circle this time. Why is he going to be closed? It's because it is an or equal to. So if I want to be greater or equal to that number, I want to include negative 20 and also go to all the numbers greater than that. Okay. All right, number 6 is going to be the first time I try to really throw you for a loop, okay? So watch out. On number 6, can we simplify? No. We are ready to solve, though. Let's get rid of that 3. If I subtract 3 from both sides, I'm left with negative 10 less than x. We didn't multiply or divide. We don't need to flip. We're going to put our answer in the middle, negative 10, negative 9, negative 11. But this time, when I look at it and I say, what kind of circle do we need? Open circle. It's a less than. But what I'm saying is that negative 10 is less than the x. Okay, so if I was going to rephrase this, and I would say x is what? Is x bigger than the negative 10 or smaller? The x is larger. X is the greater number. He's the bigger side. If you think back on middle school, I know they gave you that annoying thing we talked about with the teeth and the alligator, okay? Alligator's eating the X. In other words, the X is greater. We actually want to shade to the greater side then, because we're talking about the X's, okay? If you need some more practice on that, that is okay. Come see me. If you are somebody who likes to rewrite it, so you put the X, switch the sign, and negative 10, that works for me too. Those are the same thing. Make a note of that if you want. Okay. All right, number 7. This time we have a little bit more work to do. So can I simplify? No. Can I solve? Yes. We're going to add 5 to both sides. That's going to be 2x is greater than or equal to a negative 2. We're going to cancel out the 2 next by dividing. That leaves us with x greater than or equal to a negative 1. We didn't divide by negative, so we don't need to flip it. Okay? Putting my negative 1, my 0, and my negative 2 onto my number line. What kind of circle would we want? Well, hopefully you know that you want a closed circle, and that's because we have an or equal to on this problem. X is greater than or equal to the negative 1. So if we're going greater, that means we're going to all the bigger numbers. Greater. Okay. All right, let's try number 8. Number 8, can we simplify? No. Can we solve? Yes. We need to cancel out that negative 3 or the minus 3. So if we cancel out subtraction, we're going to add 3 to both sides. That leaves me with x is greater than a negative 6. Now, on this problem, we do not flip. There was no multiplication or division, so we're going right to our answer. Negative 6, negative 5, negative 7. Open or closed circle, we are going to use an open because it does not have an equal to. And if x is greater than the negative 6, then we want to go towards the greater numbers. Okay? All right, let's try number 9. So on number 9, can I simplify? Yes. I actually need to get all of my x's onto one side. So I'm going to go back to my color coding system. Both of them have x's. Who has more, a positive 2 or a negative 7? Positive 2 is going to be a bigger number. So we're going to move the 7. How do we cancel out a negative? We're going to add 7 x's to the other side. So if I do that, I have 9x minus 5 greater than or equal to 4. All right, how am I going to cancel out the 5? I'm going to add it to the other side, or add it to both sides actually. Keeping the sign the same, I'm not flipping it. I haven't multiplied or divided with a negative. Okay. Get rid of the 9, I need to divide by 9. What I do to one side, I do to the other. My answer is going to be x is greater than or equal to a 1. No negatives again, not flipping. So I've got a 1. The next number on the left is a 0. The next number on the right is a 2. If you are confused on this ever, Think about 0 in the middle. 1, 2, 3. Negatives go the other way. -1, -2, -3. We're in the positives on this one, okay? All right, what kind of circle would we want? Well, we'd want this one to be closed, and that's because it has an or equal to with it. Greater than or equal to. If I want to be greater than 1, I'm going towards my bigger number. I'm still going to the right. I'm still greater. We are ready for our last problem, last question. Can I simplify? Yes, I have x's on both sides. How would I simplify that? I need to get all of them to where the bigger number is. So all of them over to where the 8 is. Let's go ahead and move my 3x's by subtracting. That leaves me -3 greater than 5x plus 12. We're going to cancel the 12 out next. I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. That gives me -15 is greater than 5x. Still haven't multiplied or divided by a negative, okay? Last step, I'm going to divide by 5 to get rid of it. And I'm dividing by 5, not a negative, just 5. So on this problem, I have -3 is greater than x. So remember, if I read this, I'm saying x is what? In this case, x is less. X is the smaller number. He is less than the -3. So when I make my numbers, -3, -2, -4, I have to remember that I want to shade less than. I'm going to put my open circle still, and I'm going to shade to where the x is. X is less than that -3 because the -3 is greater than the x. Okay, so you could rewrite it the same way. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause this. If you have any questions and need more time to write, do that. Otherwise, come see me in the tutorial. You are now ready to get started on practice for 1.4.